So let us start our press conference on the anniversary of the Salisbury incident. We're having Russian First Deputy Representative Dmitry Polyanskiy here as a speaker. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for that. So, a year ago there was a very busy day in the Security Council, as you might remember. The event was quite unexpected, but it got a very vivid media coverage and a lot of emotions. So today is exactly 1 year since the poisoning of former Russian intelligence colonel Sergei Skripal and his daughter. We decided to speak to you today and to give our impression what we have right now as the bottom line. So we can say that despite huge efforts of the UK police, it has not been able to support the political version of the incident with facts and proof. We have a lot of unconfirmed things, even mysterious facts, but no specifics and zero substance so far. The most important thing, we still don't know who did it, why, and how. 1 year on. All our efforts to cooperate with the British side are being constantly rejected. They don't want to listen. They expect us only to tell them either President Putin did this himself or he lost control of the people who did this. Only two versions are on the table. Everything else is rejected. What worries us very much, we don't have any information about the Skripals. Where are they? The only thing we saw was Yulia's video address published by Reuters, but it was quite obvious for us that she was reading a pre-written text, which was clearly a translation from English and had been initially written by a native English speaker. That adds to the questions that we have. What happens with her? Is she alive? Is her father alive? Where are they kept? We have absolutely no information about this. And therefore, we have any reason to qualify the situation as a forced detention or even abduction of two Russian nationals. As you know, they both have Russian passports. In general, we can say that we have now entered a new era in international relations, because now no evidence is needed, and verification mechanisms developed under existing international law do not have to be activated. It's enough to use the words like likely, highly likely, probably, maybe, there is no other plausible explanation, and so on and so far. And everyone believes what is being said. And it's very important to understand that this belief is followed by very specific measures, unwinding the sanctions spiral, the international stigmatization. The direct consequences were the fact that relations with Western countries have significantly worsened. Dozens of my colleague diplomats were expelled from both sides. Expelled without any conclusive evidence. And this fact was acknowledged by a number of Western politicians that when the Brits asked for solidarity, they couldn't provide actually anything substantial. I would quote here the words of Polish Deputy Foreign Minister Bartosz Cichocki, pronounced on March 30 during the most intensive British efforts to convince the others to follow suit. So he said, the depth of UK's information wasn't critical because we had been observing patterns of Russian behavior, and what happened in Salisbury fitted into that pattern. I think this is very illustrative. With every step with this pattern of behavior, so-called, is questioned by us, but we hear the same things. Highly likely, Russia did it, who else could, and so on and so forth. We also are quite confident now, 1 year on, that the UK has launched an unprecedented anti-Russia information campaign a year ago. There is hardly a case in recent history when high-ranking officials would render a guilty verdict against another state for an alleged crime without even bothering to give the public at least some kind of reasoning of evidence for it. We also understand that the topic of the Skripals, Salisbury and Amesbury, became the only unifying agenda in the UK right now. The very consensus around which Theresa May's government is unified, including the political establishment. I can also a little bit question the behavior and the interest, or maybe, to put it better, lack of interest of some of British journalists who usually like investigative journalism, but it seems that they don't want to delve into the numerous inconsistencies that are issued by the media or by official sources. There's a big number of these inconsistencies. I can announce that my colleagues in our embassy in London yesterday published a report, Salisbury 1 year after. It is available on the website. We also tweeted it in our account. There you can find exhaustive information about what happened, what were the allegations, what did Russia try to do to help the British investigation, how these efforts were rejected, and so on and so forth. So I advise you all to read this document. I could speak more, actually, but I imagine that you might have some questions. I encourage you to limit them to the Salisbury case, and I'll try to do my best to answer them. So, further.
Okay, guys. So, Russia Today, please. РИА Новости.
He doesn't know even our journal.
No, he knows.
How do we keep him?
It's a whole...
I actually wanted to ask about the situation where you said that Great Britain has rejected all Russian trying to contact to investigate the case. So at this moment, we all know that something happened, that we don't know if they're alive, because as far as I know, nobody saw them. And what else actually we can do in this situation? Any maybe UN letters or questions? Or
when you say we, you mean journalists, or you mean the Russian side?
I mean the Russian side, and I mean the Russia is a country in the UN. Maybe, I don't know, any questions during the Security Council or maybe General Assembly resolutions, anything, because Russia is still be accusing and no opportunity to resolve this problem, actually.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a very strange situation because it's kind of it's not necessary to prove Russian involvement in this crime, as the Brits put it, because everybody understands this. Same as everybody understood that Russia is involved in Litvinenko poisoning, for example. But actually, the end of the result was the same. There was no conclusive evidence, and the whole process was being put top secret, and we right now don't know what has happened. We haven't seen any proofs that Russia did it, and we were ready to cooperate. Everything else was rejected. You remember maybe at the initial stage of this discussion in the Security Council, when the British representative, Mrs. Pierce, when she was questioned why actually Britain doesn't ask Russia to participate in the investigation, she said, if my memory doesn't fail me, that the arsonist can't be involved in the investigation of the arson. That was the metaphor. But how do you know who is the arsonist if you're investigating the arson? So actually, my impression is that the British side right now got everything it wanted. So it created the impression that Russia is behind this. There's a lot of mystery, so there are no proofs, but the public opinion, if you ask people in the street, if you ask politicians, they will say, yeah, of course, it is proven that Russia was behind the Salisbury attack. But there are no concrete facts, no concrete evidence. What can we do in this regard? We repeatedly asked our British colleagues that we are ready to participate in the investigation. There are mechanisms for this. There are mechanisms within the OPC, the Chemical Weapons Convention. There are bilateral mechanisms. We said that we are ready to study and to cooperate on any request for legal assistance from the British side. We sent to them, I don't know how many notes, diplomatic notes with questions that we wanted to clarify. If you study the document that I pointed out to the work of my colleagues from the embassy in London, in the annex there, you will see all the questions that Russian side formulated to the British side and which remained unanswered. I can assure you that there are not 2 but maybe 10 pages of these questions, and they are still unanswered. They are hanging in the air. So what can we do in this situation? We see that there is less and less public interest towards this topic, again, because first of all, I can imagine how tired people are of this. Secondly, again, there is kind of understanding, kind of consensus on the fact that Russia is behind this attack. And that's what the Brits really need. You see that now they are not very much active of bringing any other documents, any other pieces of information. There are so many things that do not fit, do not match in the narrative, in the official narrative, if there is an official narrative. But what we can understand, an official narrative, that it's really very awkward to comment this, and this is about official parts. But really, I encourage those of you who are interested in investigations to dig further, because there are so many things that are not on the surface, and I don't know, maybe they will be embarrassing for the British side, maybe they will help to discover the truth, but we don't know the truth. We are very much far from knowing the truth. What we really want to do and what we will try to achieve, we want to have information and access to our citizens, because Britain has the obligation to do so under the Vienna Consular Convention, under bilateral treaties. And in fact, we are being denied access to our citizens for 1 year. As I told you, the only thing we saw was video addressed by Yulia Skripal, but it was, well, in May, almost 1 year ago. So what do we know now? There are certain written documents attributed to them, like, we don't want to speak to the Russian side, we are okay, don't bother us. But who knows who wrote these documents? This is contrary to any practice. The absolute must in such situation would be to initiate a contact with Russian consul. If Russian consul faces Russian citizen and Russian citizen says, well, I don't want to deal with Russian side anymore, okay, it's their right. But there should be such a contact, physical contact, not through video, not through documents. This is kind of, I know, basics of international relations, and these basics are being violated. We don't know the Skripals. Are they alive? Are they in Britain? Are they elsewhere? We don't know anything. And this situation is considered to be normal by our British colleagues. It's not normal for us. They have relatives in Russia. They have Victoria Skripal, who tried to get repeatedly British visa, and she was denied. She wanted to go there and to see her cousin. There is the elderly mother of Mr. Skripal in Russia, who is not aware about the fate of her son. And these things are being tolerated as if nothing happens. But for us, things are happening. We will, of course, try to use official channels to get access to these people. We don't know what's happening with them. We don't know what kind of information, if they are alive. We don't know what kind of information they receive about this case. We assume that it might be very much distorted. But again, we don't know anything. We will push this issue, but without help of the media and civil society, I don't think that we will attain everything. As long as public opinion tolerates such kind of things, I think there are no prospects for such cases.
Michelle.
Thanks, Ambassador. Michelle Nichols from Reuters. I'm interested to hear whether Russia has reached any conclusions as to who you think might be highly likely responsible for this incident. And also there's some reports out of Russia that have been picked up by a British paper that warrant a Russian response, talking about President Putin dressing down the head of the GRU over this incident for bungling this incident. So perhaps you could respond to that as well. Thank you.
Well, actually, what I can tell you absolutely definitely is that we have nothing to do with this accident or incident or attack. We are absolutely sure in Russia. Of course, we need more information because it's very difficult to act or not to act in these circumstances. We all get reports from the media, but we are not part of the investigation, though we should be part of the investigation. And we also have different reports from the papers which are very contradictory, and they bring about new theories about what has happened, and the British side doesn't even bother to say or to deny or to confirm them. So for us, we don't have a clear picture of what has happened. They highlighted two people who were in Salisbury at this time. They indicated their names, but they didn't provide anything for us to really make a conclusion about their wrongdoings. Because, well, they said there were two people in Salisbury. At this moment, they allegedly went to the house of Skripal. They allegedly put this substance on the door handle, but things do not match. Even if you analyze the timetable, they physically couldn't have done it because the Skripals, according to the police reports, they left the house earlier, so they were not in contact with this doorknob. Again, what was the substance? We don't know. Because on the one hand, initially when the Western side actually said that it was kind of Novichok, this is Western classification of this substance. It was absolutely clear from what the Western experts said that this is highly toxic. So any person who would get in contact with this substance would get killed within seconds or minutes or so on and so forth. There were a lot of people who came in contact with this substance, but they are still alive. So many people could have contacted with the Skripals initially, and, well, they are alive. So there are no answers to these questions. Again, at the initial stage, there was absolutely clear information that this substance is very much afraid of wetness of water, and it will be dissolved, so it will not be present in the atmosphere within several hours. Now we see that the different places in Salisbury and Amesbury are being cleared for contamination even now, 1 year after. So we don't know anything about the substance. We could have been very helpful and useful for the investigation if we were given the samples of this substance, but we were not. So everything else, Michelle, is kind of speculations, you know. Putin scolded someone, Putin didn't scold someone. These are all media reports. Since the very beginning, we clearly stated our position. Please give us concrete proofs, give us concrete information, answer to our questions. Let's cooperate together. If you want to somehow conduct a joint investigation, if you want to ask questions in Russia to these Petrov and Bashirov, you're welcome, no problem. But they don't ask for this. They absolutely don't ask for anything. They say they have the picture. They don't need Russian side to establish its fault. That's the problem. There are very many media reports. I have a big file of what was there, but I don't think it's worth even citing them because one contradicts another, and it's like tomorrow there is one version, yesterday there was another version, and it changes very soon. This is kind of media reports, nothing more. They're not being commented. So again, to establish what has happened, we need information, clear information, to find somebody allegedly who was involved in this case from Russian side, from my country, if the British side insists that there was such a case. We also need some proofs that there was kind of wrongdoings. We need some clear, logical picture of what happened. And we don't have this picture because the facts do not match. They do not explain what has happened in Salisbury. They do not publish a lot of information which should there be. For example, the video camera coverage. There is a lot of data missing that could have shed the light on what has happened. It is not there. They make cherry picking. They choose some kind of information that is useful to them. They say these two persons were in Salisbury, so of course they went to the Skripal house, and of course they poisoned them. But facts do not match. Even theoretically, they do not match. And practically, nobody bothers to sit and to put them on a table and to ask himself a question. Is it logical? Is it possible? Is it feasible? So how can we react to any criticism, to any personal criticism against some persons in Russia if we don't see proofs of any wrongdoings from their side? This would be very strange. They could pick up any passenger from Aeroflot flight to London saying that he might be implied. And so what? This is not serious. This is ridiculous. We ourselves have a lot of questions. Again, there are more and more questions about this case. I can give you one example. For example, in January, not so long ago, it was published that the first person to help the Skripals after they lost consciousness was Colonel Alison McCourt, Chief Nursing Office of the Army, and her daughter Abigail. So how come they really were on the place? Was it a coincidence? They were the persons who really could determine this fact and who could give the best assistance possible. We don't believe in such coincidences, but there is no explanation from the Russian side. Again, there is no explanation, if we speak about this, of the presence at the Salisbury hospital at the time of the Skripals being admitted of staff trained to deal with nerve agent poisoning. This is very specific, I would say, field of medicine. You will not find them in whatever hospital you ask. But all of a sudden, in Salisbury hospital, there happened to be people who had this knowledge. So again, there are questions and questions and questions and questions. I think investigative journalists could write really good books about this. But the fact is that unfortunately nobody is bothered by this. Everybody is satisfied. It seems to us, it's satisfied with this official version that highly likely Russia did it. There is no other plausible explanation. But where are the proofs? Again. 1 year on, we asked this question 1 year ago. I remember this meeting of Security Council. We said, together with Ambassador Nebenzia, please give us proofs. We are ready to cooperate. The proofs are not there, even 1 year on, and this is, of course, very disappointing.
Just a quick follow-up.
Yeah.
Who does Russia believe might have wanted to attack the Skripals?
We didn't have the motive and we didn't have the reason to do it. I can say that we were not interested in this.
No, but who do you believe might have wanted to attack them?
As British side puts it, who else? Russia has a track record of all these numerous crimes, which everyone we can question. So who else was interested? This can be a provocation. There is a very big... There are a lot of people who believe that this was a provocation, but it's very difficult to answer this question. Again, if we come a little bit to this issue, why would Russia really poison the Skripals? Why would we seek to get this man who was 8 years in our prison, to whom we had access? Why would we target him and his daughter with such a strange way, again, to kill? And if we tried to kill him, why didn't we kill him actually? Were there these agents kind of newcomers? They were interns, I don't know. Why didn't they do it if they were asked to do it? There are thousands of different methods, as you know, from crime movies and novels to fulfill this job. But why did we choose such a strange thing, such a strange methods? And why would we need it before presidential elections in Russia and before the World Cup in Russia? It would be absolutely foolish thing to do. So even from logical point of view, we absolutely had no motive and we absolutely had no reason to get Skripal in Britain in such a strange way. We don't know who did it. Again, we don't have access to the information we need. If we had, maybe we would have established it easily. But we have to consume rumors from newspapers that are not being confirmed or denied, and that's all we have. And now, as you see, the interest of the British side is clearly not very high to this case. 1 year on, I didn't come across this morning on any publications, any sensations, because, well, everything is achieved. Everybody believes that Russia is behind this, so what else? Why should we prove it? This is a new method of international relations, accusing somebody. You know about the presumption of innocence. So there is, in this case, there is presumption of guilt. You are being accused of something, and please prove that you didn't do it. We don't need to prove that you did it, but you prove that you didn't do it. Prove to us that you are not a murderer. I don't know. This is very absurd from any point of view and absolutely not professional, to put it mildly.
Mike.
Michael Schwartz from the New York Times. Thanks for taking the time. I'd like to say just off the bat that my newspaper is still very, very interested in this case. So if you have any insights that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear them. I wanted to go back to the proofs that you keep speaking about. Obviously, the why is elusive, but the British side has laid out a pretty detailed explanation of the how and the who. I think, you know, in both in your presentation today and in others I've heard from Ms. Zakharova, Lavrov, and your colleagues in Britain, you've sort of seized on some initial confusion about what the substance was and the timing, and have put that forth as evidence of some kind of conspiracy. But sort of when you step back and look at the whole picture, there's a narrative, albeit with holes, kind of emerges. This substance, I think there was some initial confusion about what it was, but it has been the OPCW has backed up the British findings on that. You've got CCTV coverage of these individuals arriving in the UK, traveling together to Salisbury, and sort of.
Sorry, OPCW didn't back it because it doesn't. It has nothing to do with the CCTV coverage of this.
No. I'm talking about the substance. The OPCW backed the British findings. The findings important down on the substance. You do have CCTV coverage. The British authorities have identified 2 individuals that they refer to, use an alias to enter into the country. And one would assume has their real identities. Those real identities, I believe, have been published by another organization whose name I'm sure you know. And so I'm wondering if you could drill down into some of these, drill down into this narrative presented by the British side about what happened here, and sort of address the specifics of the case. This substance was used. The OPCW did back it up. These 2 individuals appear to be in the vicinity of the Skripal's home on the day that the poisoning is said to occur. I'm curious, sort of, given those facts, kind of what more evidence do you think the British should provide you to make you feel more comfortable with how their investigation is proceeding?
Frankly speaking, with all due respect, in what you said, I haven't heard a single evidence, a single proof. Because anything that is being enumerated like this can be questioned, very seriously questioned by serious investigation. I will answer your question. First of all, I would like to remind you what was, as you said, the British side in detail explained its reasoning why Russia was behind this and gave a proof. So the only narrative that we had, I can quote it. It was Prime Minister Theresa May's statement on 12 March, which hasn't actually changed during the year. So I will quote it. Russia's record of conducting state-sponsored assassination and our assessment that Russia views some defectors as legitimate targets for assassinations made us conclude that this is highly likely that Russia was responsible for the act against Sergei and Yulia Skripal. There are therefore only two plausible explanations of what happened in Salisbury on 4th March. Either this was a direct act by the Russian state against our country, or the Russian government lost control of their potentially catastrophically damaging nerve agent and allowed it to get into the hands of the others. That's it. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed since that time. Nothing new was given. For the OPCW and for the substance,
they did identify two people who were involved, and they provided a fairly detailed timeline, albeit with some holes in it, about the whereabouts of the two individuals, as well as found traces of the substance in the hotel room the individuals were supposed to have stayed at. So they haven't provided nothing since that statement from Theresa May.
It's something, but again, I told you that they could identify any person from the Aeroflot flight. And it's happened that these two came to Salisbury, which is not a crime, as you admit. There are, as you put it, there are some holes, but these holes explain everything. For example, it is absolutely known that they could find themselves in the vicinity of Skripal's house, which is not proven, by the way. They just went to this direction, but there is no CCTV coverage provided to us. It is very hard to believe that, for example, Sergei Skripal, being in such a situation and knowing that he could arise some interest, didn't have a CCTV system in his house. But okay, it's up to British side to tell us. And that there are no CCTV cameras in the neighborhood of the house. But okay, we could buy it. But even physically, even theoretically, if we imagine that they are the assassins, they could have found themselves in the vicinity of Skripal's house at around 1 p.m. According to the police, it's not my data, it's police data. And again, according to the police, the Skripals left their house at around 9 by car and never returned back. This is a small hole, but it's important to bridge this gap, because otherwise you don't understand. If we imagine that they were the assassins, if we imagine that they put this substance on the doorknob, how would Skripals get in contact with this? What kind of substance was this? You mentioned OPCW. Okay, we all trust in OPCW, but the OPCW procedures were broken by the British side. Since the very beginning, there should have been joint investigation, and we, Russia, as an accused side, should have given the specimen of this investigation, of this substance. The OPCW team got the specimen of the blood in the hospital several days after the incident has happened. It didn't take it on the place. And again, I would also quote that this, I have it somewhere, that it was taken in a very pure form, which is very suspicious, because after several days it should have interacted with blood, with something else. So even from this point of view, this analysis is very questionable. There are a lot of things like this. So who could trust this expertise when people bring you to the hospital, say, okay, there are two people there, they were poisoned, take their blood samples. You don't know what was injected to them. I think at that time, I may be mistaken, but it was said that they were unconscious at this time. So what could happen to them? Who would trust this kind of things? This is very important. These are not details. These are not holes. These are things on which the whole theory against Russia is based. So they ask us, they tell us, okay, you have these two people who committed this crime. We ask them a question. Tell us, how did they do it physically? What were they doing in Salisbury? Show us the CCTV footage. Explain to us how could Skripals get in touch with this substance? if they left the house earlier. Explain to us this inconsistency. They don't. How come that this substance is on the one hand very stable and keeps intact for several weeks or months? On the other hand, it flies away. So those people who get in contact with the Skripals at the place and in other zones, they are not affected. It's not logical. Either there are many substances or there is something missing in this.
Can I just a quick follow-up question, just a more global question. So you've got the British side who that sort of insists that two officers from the Russian GRU came to Salisbury last year with the intent to assassinate a former GRU officer, and is sticking to that. There doesn't seem like there's going to be any chance that they're going to back away from that anytime soon. You've got the Russian side saying that absolutely didn't happen, and you know, based on things that you've said, suggest that there's some kind of a conspiracy involved to make it look like the Russians may have carried this out. How do Russia and Britain move forward beyond this, and maybe not just the theoretical or a hypothetical question about that, but have you seen any contacts reemerge in the year, diplomatic contacts or any sort of back-channel contacts reemerge between the British and Russian governments in the year since the Skripal poisoning happened that would suggest to you that relations are sort of settling back into some kind of normalcy?
It takes two to tango, you know. So we are ready to dance, no problem, but don't have a partner since the very beginning. I can assure you that there are no backstage contacts whatsoever. The only two questions the British side want to ask us to answer is Putin himself poisoned them, or did he lose grip of some group of individuals or of the substance? That's the only thing the Brits are interested. There are no contacts whatsoever. We sent, again, if you bother to read this document that I'm mentioning, this compendium prepared by our embassy in London, you will see in attachment, in annex, a lot of notes that we were sending with requests, with asking for us to get involved in this investigation. We want to answer any questions, any serious questions about investigation. But again, you can't pinpoint all of a sudden two individuals that happened to be in Britain, no matter what was where do they work or where did they work. But you can't say that these people are to blame only because they came to Britain and they happened to be in Salisbury. Give us proofs. Show to us the proofs. Give us some plausible explanation how it could be done. I'm not speaking about why they could do it. Again, this is another hole. Why would Russia seek to do it if we had Mr. Skripal in our possession for 8 years? What is the value of Mr. Skripal again after this all this time? You know that all these secrets they have the trend to expire after some time. What's the point of getting him in Britain? What's the point of getting Yulia Skripal in Britain when she lives in Russia? What at all is her connection there? Wouldn't it be easier to get rid of one person and with some more easy way, I would say? Again, this is from detective stories, as all of us know. They don't explain this kind of thing. They just say Russia is behind this because nobody else could. If you buy this, okay, you continue to believe in this. But we don't buy this. We need proofs. They absolutely do not cooperate with us. The fate of this investigation, I'm quite sure, would be the same as the fate of Litvinenko investigation. Everything will be made top secret. They will say the truth is established. We know that Russia did it, but we can't tell you, and we can't tell anybody because this is top secret. Maybe after 30 or 50 years, we will learn some details about this when they are declassified, if someday they are declassified. But the fate is the same. Now nothing is happening. Everybody is satisfied by the way that people believe and experts believe that Russia did it, but no proofs are on the table. Yeah.
Abisab, please.
Thank you, Nabil Abisab, Al Hurra correspondent. Can you tell us what do you know about the two men who were accused by the UK authorities, Mr. Petrov and Mr. Pishrov? Are they under any kind of protection program, or are they free to move around in the country or to travel from and into Russia. And of course, the solidarity with the United Kingdom came from many Western countries. Do you feel, or is there any progress on this issue with any other country in Europe or Western countries in general from your side?
Well, on the first question, why should they be protected, these two individuals? They are Russian citizens. Well, we do not accuse them of anything because we don't have the reasons to accuse them of anything. Somebody said on TV and somebody showed the pictures that they were seen in Britain near Salisbury. So every Russian citizen who comes to Salisbury should be a suspect immediately. I know that they are free people. They are kind of businessmen. I heard that they were participating in some events. I read yesterday that they were planning to participate in some seminar about this in Moscow State University about this information campaign against Russia. So I don't think that they really hide their whereabouts because I don't know what they can be afraid of. They are not. They have not the status of accused in Russia for the reasons that I explained to you. Because there is no logic behind these kind of allegations that we hear. You can't accuse a person on the basis of such pathetic lies or pathetic fakes. I don't know. Maybe they are not fakes. Maybe they are not lies. We don't know. Give us proofs. We are ready to work. As for for other countries, well, everybody's position is like, Brits know it for sure, and we should display solidarity with them. So we do not raise these issues in bilateral contexts, not on our initiative. The other countries are also not very much eager to raise this issue. The damage has been done. The diplomats have been expelled. The sanctions were introduced. Nobody questions whether they were introduced and these measures were taken because of some good reasoning or because of some bad reasoning. For them, it's a matter of history. And the Brits are satisfied with this. They still maintain that they know that Russia is behind this. But I quoted one European politician to you from Poland. We have another quotes of some others that reflect really the level and the depth of British reasoning for the allies of Russia's alleged guilt in this situation. They are not different very much. So we can easily understand that it's kind of solidarity, only solidarity, or kind of blind solidarity. But, well, we don't get in contact with any other state, not with Britain, but with any other European or American country on this issue. This issue is kind of away from our diplomatic contacts. It's about not to exist. So it exists only in press. We see in British press from time to time new sensations about this, which are not being confirmed or denied, and which seem with every day more and more bizarre. And that's it. There is no other way that we discuss it with somebody else. My press conference maybe is a good opportunity to raise awareness of this situation, but it is so. It is an illusion to imagine that there is kind of dialogue between Russia and somebody, between Russia and Britain about this. No, there is no dialogue. They are satisfied. They achieved what they wanted. They created this illusion that Russia is behind this crime, and they don't bother to produce any other proofs. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm speaking with you.
Thank you, Mr. Polyanskiy. Ali Barada from Sharq Al-Awsat newspaper and France 24. There are a lot of questions that Russia hasn't been providing answers to them. Main answer is why, since the day one, Russia has been trying to discredit the British investigation, or undermine the British judicial system, and also the OPCW norms. And Russia hasn't been accepting the notion of accountability when it comes to chemical weapons use, not only in the Salisbury case, but also in other cases, mainly in Syria. And I don't want you to talk about Syria, but Russia obviously is defying the international norms. What's the explanation that you can provide to us to believe that Russia is on the right side, not on the wrong side of the history?
Oh, I do not share actually your assessment. It's very difficult to for me to answer the question in the way you want me to answer it, because well, we questioned the British investigation since the very beginning because there was no investigation, there was no credible investigation. Since the very beginning, they introduced this political context that Russia was behind this, and all the proofs, they were so-called proofs. They were kind of targeted, kind of curtailed to fit into this picture. But we don't buy any such proofs. If this is an investigation, then it should be an investigation. People should ask questions. People should be ready to answer our questions. People should be ready to take us on board, to share information with us. This is what investigation is being called. And again, there should be very clear answers to the questions. The question is, who did this, how, and why? The most important question is why. I don't buy the reasoning that was initially put forward by the British side. I explained to you why it's not credible. Again, they pinpointed certain people, but they didn't explain how they did it. They said they were in Salisbury, and that's it. This is not the proof. This is not the way the investigation is being conducted. We know how efficient British police can be in other cases. We know how detailed investigation can be, but not in our case. On OPCW, I explained to you, because the procedure was broken since the very beginning. We had to be part of this investigation within OPCW. There are provisions of OPCW that clearly demand Britain to act in this way. I explained to you why we question the specimen that were taken from Skripals, because, well, we don't know what happened to Skripals for at least 2 days. This is not that we don't trust OPCW, but the chain of custody should be respected. By the way, it's the same thing in Syria, as you mentioned it. It's not that we don't trust OPCW, but we want OPCW to stick to its rules and to stick to its chains of custody. But actually, it's not happening. With the Salisbury incident, it is not happening. Again, Russia should be part of this investigation, should have been since the very beginning, including within the OPCW. Our first note that was sent was the request for us to be part of this investigation in accordance with the OPCW rules, which was ignored, because arsonists can't be added to the investigation of the arson. There are a lot of questions, a lot of things that are not being clarified, and you will see this in this material that I mentioned. How could the Porton Down laboratory identify this substance if the only way could be that they had a sample of this substance within their possession? There is no other way they could give the exact formula of this substance. But how can they get it into their possession? This would be again the breach of OPCW rules. But if they have it if they had it in their possessions, where is the guarantee that they couldn't use it? Salisbury is very close, I think 8 miles from Porton Down laboratory. These all questions are unanswered because they say, no, this is something you didn't even ask about this because everybody knows Russia is to blame. So why are you asking about Porton Down? It doesn't matter that the head of Porton Down at some point acknowledged that they didn't give Boris Johnson any indication that it was Russian origin. It doesn't matter. They just delete these tweets after some time when they see that it's not credible. Just like this. Nothing matters. Only Russian guilt matters for them. Everything that doesn't fit into this picture is being rejected. It's very simple. I don't buy this logic. If you do...
A quick follow-up. How do you want to press on this issue from now on, since they don't buy your logic, you don't buy their logic? How do you want to press?
We don't want to press. It's up to them to prove. They don't bother to prove. The only thing we are worried about the fate of our two citizens. We insist that should be given consular access to these citizens if they are alive, or being given some explanation what happened to them. That's the only thing we can do. Everything else is a headache of the British side, but they don't seem to have the headache. They are quite okay. They are quite comfortable with this. So why should we press with this? I don't know. Let's have maybe two final questions.
Ambassador, just a quick one. Do you believe that they're not alive?
Hi.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Frank Yusiardo, TRT World. I want to get back to something that you said earlier about forced detention. What in your mind makes you think that they are forcibly being detained? What kind of evidence you have? And what would be the British reason for forcibly detaining them?
I don't know what is the reasoning for the British side. Again, I told you we never saw Sergei Skripal after this attack. We had conflicting information. There was information that he is on the brink of death. Then he all of a sudden is cured, but he doesn't speak to press. He's not shown. The only video we saw was that one of video of Yulia Skripal that I mentioned, but it is very suspicious, to put it mildly. As a Russian speaker, I can tell you.
Do you think she's dead?
Sorry?
Do you not believe she's alive?
I don't know. The last video information that we had about her was May. Everything else is being attributed to her. But how do we know? These people can do whatever they want with them. We don't know. Maybe they wanted consular help. Maybe they didn't. The only way to determine it was to physically see the consul and to tell them, yes, we don't want your help. Okay, we would be satisfied with this. But it wasn't done in breach of consular convention. How can we be sure that these people are alive? How can we be sure that everything is okay with these people? We don't know anything about this. Again, the only thing we saw was this video interview of Yulia Skripal, which is extremely suspicious. As a Russian speaker, I can tell you that we don't speak in such way in Russian as she spoke. The only way is just to read English text that was translated by somebody for whom Russian is not a native language. This is very clear. Like for you, it's very clear that I am not the English speaker, that my English is not my native tongue. Same thing for us. So this interview rose more questions than answers. And then all of a sudden, there is no trace of them. I don't know. Where are they? If they are in Britain, if they are in safety, why wouldn't British side give us consular access to them? That we ourselves would see that, yes, they are okay. Yes, they don't want to speak to the Russian side. Yes, they don't want to cooperate. It's not their right. It's their obligation. It's obligation of the British side to do so under consular convention. It's a clear breach of it, which lasts for 1 year now. And I can't, of course, answer your questions because I don't know where are they and what happened to them. I hope that they are alive. I hope that they're in good health. But we have absolutely no good reasons to believe it. Okay.
Edie.
Mr. Ambassador, has Russia ever considered asking someone like the Secretary General or anyone else to try and mediate between your country and the United Kingdom to try and resolve this situation?
Mediate in what, actually?
Mediating in trying to get an investigation or to get all of the answers that would help satisfy.
Mediating in convincing British side to give us explanations and to give the more or less plausible version of what has happened. This is a bit childish, really. I think it goes without saying. So Secretary General, of course, has a lot of things to do, and he has his reputation as well. It would be really very childish to believe that he could convince the British side to do something which it has to do from the point of view of elementary logic, from the point of view of diplomatic relations, from the point of view of reputation of Britain. For us, it goes without saying. So we shouldn't ask anybody. It's just the things that the British side has to do. But again, British side is satisfied with what it has. For it, everything is closed. Yeah, Russian blame is proven, no matter that there are no facts, but everybody knows there is no other plausible explanation, highly likely. It couldn't be other way. We heard about this all the time, but there are no proofs. Who could mediate in this thing? I don't know. Psychiatrists? Maybe. But we haven't maybe found a good one for this. Maybe you could recommend somebody who would be convincing for the British side. Okay, last question and we finish.
Last question, yeah.
Ambassador, hi, my name is Ibtisam Azim from Al Arab Al Jadid newspaper. I have a couple of questions. The first question, a follow-up. You said that in your bilateral meetings with other countries, you didn't raise, especially when it comes to sanctions, you didn't raise the issue. If I got you right, could you elaborate why? And the second question, which next steps are you planning to take, and whether there is something on the UN level that you are waiting to do? Thank you.
It echoes very much the previous question, I mean the last one. It's very difficult to imagine what next steps can we do in such an absurd situation. The only thing we really want to do now is to get consular access to our two citizens. I pointed it out. Everything else, well, it's kind of, I don't know, theater of the absurd that is happening. It's very difficult to imagine any concrete steps. We are impatiently waiting for the British side to explain, to give us the picture of how it happened, why it happened, who did this, who had the reasons to do it. We have no answers. Before we get these answers, even from point of view of mere logic, it would be strange for us to ask for something more. Again, sorry to return to this all the time. It's not that I'm promoting this work by my colleagues, but in the annex you have a lot of questions that we asked the British side. All of them are logical. It's not trolling them. It's asking concrete information, which is indispensable for any further steps. But this is being ignored. As for contacts with the third countries, I didn't say that we do not raise this issue. After these diplomatic measures were taken, of course we asked all of them through the contacts that we had, so why did you do it? But the answer was solidarity, we believe, we trust the Brits. If the Brits say that you are behind this, then you are behind this. That's it. So how can you discuss this situation? They just point the finger to the British side and say, yeah, they know that your guys are to blame. We are just, we have our discipline, our solidarity, and our relations, so don't ask us, ask them. Well, thank you very much. I just really I encourage you to be more curious and to dig deeper into this problem, because if you don't dig into this problem, I think the British side will stop there at this stage, because for them everything is clear, but not for us, and I hope not for you. Thank you very much.